civilians and policymakers and the military. And then I think the more broad kind of like, who is the leadership of our military and how does that play into who's the leadership of various parts of the national security apparatus and how does that interact with the executive branch? I think those are three very different areas that all get lumped into CivMil. Mm-hmm. And I think you need very different backgrounds and perspectives to address each three of those. I'm more interested in, and frankly, more able to respond to the last two than the first one. But I think the first one is still really interesting. And someone I know, like people talk about, you know, professional sports and the military all the time. And I understand it's great for recruiting, but I would love for someone to write a book on that I can then listen to as an audiobook.
So there are a few last things we're really interested in hearing your thoughts about. Let's say the year's 2048. It's been a really contentious election cycle. It's been a tough fought campaign on both sides. But finally, that first Tuesday in November rolls around, 3 a.m., most precincts are reporting, and CNN anchor Breonna Keeler is able to announce that the next president of the United States will be Maggie Feldman-Piltch.
Oh, God.
Who do you appoint to your national security team?
Okay, for pretty much every woman I listed in LC wins. Like, so I would appoint Sasha O'Connell as head of my FBI. It's not my FBI. It's the DOJ's FBI. I apologize, Quinta Jurecic and Ben Wittes. I'm so sorry. Corey Shaki is for sure national security advisor. I feel like Erin Simpson needs to be in charge of like all of the things. Perhaps she's sec def. I think Caroline Tess is definitely like Assistant Secretary of Western Hem over at State. And we're going to really like dig in on Cuba because that's an area that I spend a lot of time losing sleep over. Lauren Schulman could probably be a really good sec def because she loves some good process. Is this entirely too specific? Is this not what you were looking for?
No, this is exactly what we were looking for.
Oh, okay. I was like, I spent a lot of time thinking about this, not because I want to be president at all, but because one of my favorite activities is daydreaming badass jobs for badass women. Like, I just think it's super fun. I think Lexi Martin would be a great Secretary of Homeland Security. Do I get to also pick like people to be in the legislative branch, or is that a totally separate election?
Yeah, you carried them in on your coattails.
Okay, great. I would love to see, gosh, she's going to kill me for this. Okay, so I want to see Michaela Fogel for sure running Sissy. I would love to see Quinta Jurecic also doing something, but never in a million years would she run for office. So we'd have to find someplace to appoint her. She would probably like be the official biographer or like, I don't know, something. I don't know who my attorney general would be yet. I have to think about that more.
You've got some
I would
time.
like Max Rose to be something too, just for the record.
The congressman.
Yes, I love Max Rose. And we share an alma mater, and I'm crazy about anyone who runs for Congress because they care about the AUMF. I just think that's like the best reason to run for Congress.
You mentioned earlier Sissy. What is that?
Oh, sorry. The Senate Select Intelligence Committee. Permanent Committee on Intelligence. Sorry.
All right. So, as you know, we're here at the University of Chicago Harris School of Public Policy, and most of our classmates are planning to go into policymaking of some kind. Based on your experience so far, what advice can you give to young professionals as they enter the job market? What are some things you'd like them to know?
Don't be afraid to try things, but ultimately, like, just be honest about who you are, and don't be afraid to ask for help. You don't know everything. You can't know everything. One of my biggest pet peeves is young people, and I'm a young person. We don't know, like, nobody knows everything, but it's okay to not be an expert until you are actually an expert, right? So ask for help, ask for advice. If you don't know what somebody is talking about in a meeting, if it's appropriate, politely raise your hand and say, "Excuse me, I don't know what this is," or talk to somebody after the meeting. Don't fake it. Like, there are times to fake it till you make it. There are times to, maybe actually know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, like, recognize that no work is beneath you, right? Like, come in, roll your sleeves up, get dirty, and be a team player. And just be nice to people.
One final question. You said you began your interest in national security after watching all of The West Wing.
Yes.
Who is your favorite West Wing character?
Theo McCary. You didn't even have to finish that question. Leo McGarry. I mean, like, then every time I say Leo McGarry, which is always my gut response, like, then I get into this whole thing about, like, is it internalized misogyny that's preventing me from saying Nancy McNally? I don't know. That's a whole other conversation.
The National Security Advisor.
Yes, National Security Advisor. Pretty much the only woman of color in the early seasons who, speaks about anything except for men.
What about Kate Harper?
Okay, so I also really love Kate Harper. I'm super into the fact that she was a Republican who voted for Arnold Vinnick and, like, still stood there and served her country and was like, I'm here to do my job because I love America. Mm-hmm. I'm into that. I think the writing in that portion of the show really went downhill, so she got the short end of the stick there.
Yeah, that's true.
I actually did a little bit of math, and I calculated the years through Kate Harper's career, and I found that she actually would have had to graduate with the first class of women from the U.S. Naval Academy, and she was also the top graduate from Annapolis, so that makes her an ultimate badass.
Oh my God, I would put her on the Council of Queen Mothers of Not Set Girl Squad. For sure. I have a whole hypothesis that Kate Harper is based off of a real person, and I think I know who that person is. I will not say that on this podcast.
We'll DM you afterward to hear your thoughts on it.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Well, Maggie, thanks so much for joining us on Thank You for Your Service. It was really great talking to you, and we're looking forward to some of our listeners hopefully getting involved in NatSec Girl Squad and all of your work.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me. I think it's great that even though you're all the way out in Chicago, you're still doing things. And I that's an intentional shot because I did go to Georgetown and, got to keep the rivalry alive.
For sure.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today on Thank You for Your Service. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at TYFYS Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you'll get our next episode as soon as it's released.
Thank You for Your Service is produced by Ashwarya Kumar, and our publisher is Haziano. This podcast is a production of the University of Chicago Public Policy Podcasts and is in no way intended to reflect the official positions of the Department of Defense or any other military entity. I'm Nick Pereso.
And I'm Thomas Krasnation. See you next time.